So come on, you atheists, run away. Run away as fast as you can from the logical, intellectually consistent conclusions, consequences of your atheism. That's why Bertrand Russell, the great British atheist philosopher, talked about unyielding despair.
We don't need any religion to withdraw from Thompson from the torture of innocent child. There are many other aspects which are relative.
All right, why is the torture of an innocent child absolutely evil? Why?
The most of religion will support the point of view about innocent child. I don't know any religion which
Yeah, that's not my point.
have other
My point is not that Jesus is the truth. My point is that if there is no God, there are no moral absolutes, because morality is just a construct of the human mind. So it's all just a perspective, a bias, a prejudice.
Cliffe,
But if there is some type of God, then it's possible that this God has created and defined moral absolutes.
there is no need in religion for the case with child in the moral.
Fine, then answer the question. Why is the torture of an innocent child wrong?
We
Why?
don't like it. We don't accept
We don't like
This is
it.
enough,
Fine.
Cliffe.
But if somebody does like to torture children, then their rebuttal to you is, I'm sorry, I like to torture children. Now, what's the basis of you saying, no, torturing innocent children is wrong?
Cliffe,
What's your basis?
I-
Why?
I dislike it. This
Good.
is enough for me.
Bravo, good for you. But that doesn't make, just because you don't like something, doesn't mean it's a moral absolute. Come on.
We don't need the moral absolute.
Fine.
For the
Then
example,
do
with
you really
child.
believe that the torture of an innocent child is sometimes all right?
I don't think so.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. So you do believe that there are a few moral absolutes. The only way there can be a moral absolute is if there is some type of mind prior to the human mind that creates and defines right and wrong.
If you have
That's
something,
tremendous.
if you have something that God wrote, please speak on that. Or if you have something that a pure representative says, then say that. Otherwise, it's just speculation. What good is speculation? I can speculate something, but nobody would want to hear that.
Well,
I'm
great.
not saying you're speculating.
That's a
but
great
let's
point.
just-
No, I'm not speculating. You're absolutely right. I'm not out here saying,
Let's put,
hey, guess what, guys? I have this idea. You all embrace my idea. I'm not saying that. I'm standing here urging people to explore Jesus of Nazareth, a real space-time person.
okay.
Jesus is not an idea that I came up with.
Did he say thou shalt not kill?
Jesus said, you've heard that it was said,
Are the
do not murder. But I tell you that if you are angry with someone and say, you fool, you'll be in danger of the fire of hell. So yes, Jesus stood by the commandment that says, thou shalt not kill.
Is it very clear? Kill. Is that
No,
very
it's
clear?
not very clear kill.
No,
It's very clear murder.
yeah.
I thought you just said it said kill.
Good question. Great question.
No,
What's
that
the
was-
difference between murder and killing?
Yeah.
Real simple. You and I walk into McDonald's. We see a guy spraying machine gun bullets into children's bodies. You hit him high, I hit him low, we break his neck in the process. That is not murder. That is killing motivated by a drive to preserve the innocent from being slaughtered. I pull out a gun, blow you away. Why? Because I think guys with hacky sacks should be blown away. That's murder. That's killing motivated by selfishness, hatred, revenge. There's an ethical difference between murder and killing. Do you see it or not?
I see it, but I don't agree with it.
You've got to be kidding me. You don't agree with
I'm
that?
not kidding you at all. I just disagree with what you're saying.
You don't think
And I
there's
have
a
my own
difference
opinion, or you-
between me killing this man because he is spraying machine gun bullets into everybody's body? You don't see the ethical difference between that action versus me murdering him because I don't think guys with Guinness hats on should be allowed to live.
You said you would murder him, whereas you just said 5 minutes ago that you would kill him. You're confusing what you're saying. You're going back on everything you're saying.
All right, let me make it real simple. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
I understand your example.
You don't see the ethical difference between him shooting everybody. Good. Very good. He starts shooting everybody, and I hit him as hard as I can to stop him from shooting everybody over there.
No, I'm not.
You don't
saying
see the
that's
difference
wrong.
between that versus me coming up and blowing him away because I don't like him. You don't see the ethical difference there? You think it's the same?
Did I say that?
Yeah, that's
No.
what you said
No,
earlier.
I didn't. I said I disagreed with it. I didn't say I think it was the same. So why don't you stop putting words into my mouth?
All right, then explain yourself.
Good, I will explain myself. If you don't have to take someone's life in order to stop them from an action, you don't take their life. You take them
Fine.
down in any means possible, right?
All right.
You don't have to kill someone to do it. Who said murder and killing has to be done in order to stop someone from shooting other people? Why can't you take the guy down and hold him down as much as possible? But I understand that if you take the man's life, in the course of him taking others' life, that
Right.
you're trying to say it's justified. I disagree that it's justified by killing someone while he's murdering others. Either way, it's not justified because death isn't justifiable.
Fine. My simple point was the gentleman asked a question about the commandment, and the commandment in Exodus chapter 20, thou shalt not kill, is referring to murder. And there's an ethical difference between murder versus killing motivated by a drive to stop the slaughter of innocent people. When American soldiers fought against Nazi Germany, that was not murder. They were obeying the government, seeking to stop Hitler from slaughtering more people. That is not murder.
But they were bombing cities
Yeah?
with children.
Yes. And that's wrong that we killed innocent civilians. Correct.
There was no other way, perhaps.
All right, thank
But
you.
it is not in the course of the Christianity. Sorry.
Very
about
good.
that.
You're right. As a follower of Christ, no American soldier wants to kill innocent civilians. Correct.
No doubt they did not want.
That's
the
right.
question, how is it possible to stop violence being still in the Christianity?
All right, as a follower of Christ, I am convinced that the solution to the violence in this world is the love and the radical power of Jesus Christ to change the human heart. But as a follower of Christ, I also am going to be committed to using force when people are destroying humans' lives. And I'm very grateful for the police. I'm very grateful for those in our armed forces who are committed to stopping people from slaughtering innocent people.
Very good, Cliff. This
Thank
is
you.
example where the Christian moral becomes relative. It is impossible, it is bad, absolutely evil to torture innocent child.
Good.
But if there is no way to stop the violence unless the bombing of cities, it is moral, is it acceptable? He is example of relativity of the moral.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
In the debate, you mentioned how you challenged some of your atheist friends, and you recognize that they're actually being rather hypocritical and not following their beliefs.
Yes.
What can you touch on some of those areas and how
You
you
bet.
challenge them?
I think it's real obvious to all of you out here that I claim to be a follower of Jesus Christ. If after I finish speaking out here, you watch me go out and womanize, what are you going to call me? A hypocrite, a liar. Very good. Bravo, guys. You know very, very well that Jesus is not someone I made up in my head. And my Jesus allows me to go out and womanize and rip people's Social Security check off. You know that that's false. Why? Because you know that Jesus taught honesty, sexual purity, integrity, compassion, crystal clear. No question about it. Very good. So if I claim to be a follower of Christ, you're not going to want to watch me go around womanizing, ripping people's Social Security check off. Good. You want me to be consistent. If I say I believe in Christ, you want to watch me live that out, struggle to live it out. Good. In the same way, if you, sir, tell me that you're an atheist, then I'm going to hold you to be consistent. Which means, You're not going to tell me that there's some ultimate purpose to human life. If you're an atheist, there is no purpose to human existence. Our number came up in a Monte Carlo game, and life is ultimately meaningless. And that's what Camus, Sartre, Nietzsche had the guts to face. The problem with the majority of my atheist friends is they don't have the intellectual integrity and courage to live out the meaninglessness of life. Instead, my atheist friends like to say, oh, here's the meaning of life. Baloney. If there is no God, life is a crapshoot. Second point, if you're going to tell me you're an atheist, fine, I respect your right. But you better not tell me that to torture an innocent child is absolutely wrong. You better tell me it's relatively wrong, because all morality is relative. Which means, if you're an atheist, you have to acknowledge it doesn't matter whether I become Hitler or Mother Teresa. It's simply an arbitrary taste, choice. Thirdly, if you're an atheist, you better not tell me that, oh yeah, maybe there's something after death for me. No, there's one thing after death for you: rotting. That's all. So you better not tell me that maybe there's a bright future out there. You better face the despair, the total despair of life. That's why Albert Camus, the great French atheistic existentialist philosopher, said, the only question that modern man must answer is, why not commit suicide? Life is meaningless. Morality is relative. Death ends the absurdity that your birth began. Thank you, Camus, for your intellectual consistency and courage in facing the logical conclusion of your atheism. I've been speaking on university campuses for 25 years. It's a long time. I've met 1.5 students who claim to be atheists who have had the courage to live out their atheism. One was a student from Soviet Union who was at Northwestern University outside Chicago. This guy said, there is no God, and because there is no God, my life is meaningless, morality is relative, and death is the end. And then he said something I'll never forget. He said, but you know, I'm really concerned for my fellow American atheists because they don't have the guts, they don't have the courage to face that. Instead, they go running around saying, you know, when you Russians blasted that Korean airliner out of the air, that was really wrong. Oh, baloney, it wasn't really wrong. Nothing's really wrong. Nothing's really right. It's all relative. The half student was at UC San Diego. This guy steps out of the crowd and he says, yeah, I'm an atheist and I realize life is meaningless, morality is relative, it really doesn't matter what I do, and death is the end. And then he said something I'll never forget. He said, but when I really seriously consider that, I get very, very sad. And my mother gets very, very concerned for me. So I don't think about it too much. That's good. So come on, you atheists, run away. Run away as fast as you can from the logical, intellectually consistent conclusions, consequences of your atheism. That's why Bertrand Russell, the great British atheist philosopher, talked about unyielding despair. Russell faced the despair of his atheism, and then he said, but you just can't give in, guys. You can't give in to that despair. Just got to keep running away from it.
What part is necessary of this evidence and what part is optional? Where is criterion? What would be enough for you to believe that this person is God?
Good question. If someone claims to be God, I'd like at least 3 things. First of all, I'd like to be able to examine his lifestyle, how he treats people. And secondly, I'd like to examine his solution to the human dilemma of sin. And thirdly, I'd like to be able to examine whether he's able to beat mortality.
To pick up?
Beat mortality, beat death.
Beat death.
If he claims to be God, I certainly hope he can beat death. if he's a supernatural God.
You need the person to show some supraphysical marvels to as proof, do you?
I'd like to see his lifestyle, his morality. Secondly, I'd like to see his solution to the dilemma of human evil, human sin. And thirdly, I'd like to see his ability to beat death.
Good.
And that's what Jesus Christ reveals marvelously. Christ lived a sinless life. Christ pointed out that the dilemma of sin he has dealt with through his death on a cross. And Christ rises from the dead, beating death. That's why when he claims to be God in human form, I trust him.
Well, Cliff, now you like the Michael. Monday, Michael suggested that God makes the marvels and appears in front of public. Now you claim the same from anybody who claims to be God, do you?
If someone claims to be God, I want to examine their lifestyle. I want to listen to their solution to the problem of evil. And I want to see whether they can beat death. And if they can do those three things, I'd be very impressed.
Hence, nobody can claim to be God unless to be crucified.
No. You don't have to be crucified. Resurrected, though. Yeah, beating death.
And you'll not believe him until he was killed and resurrected.
Well, yeah, if someone claims to be God in human form, well, I want to see whether they can beat death or not. I mean, anybody can say, I'm God in human form. I need some evidence, though. I'm not just going to say, oh, I believe you.
Vedic teachings state that there's 8,400,000 species, and the soul transmigrates through those species.
Yeah, well, I'm convinced that you never were a frog. And I'm convinced that you never were an ape. I'm convinced you're a human being created in the image of God.
I think you're in ignorance there.
All right.
I'm not a human being. I'm a spirit soul and a human body right now. And over there behind you is a spirit soul and a plant body. And you're
all right.
stepping on.
Well, and is there any difference between me stepping on you and me stepping on the flower? Yeah, but think with me a second. You got a human head, you have a cow's head, and you have a head of lettuce. You take out a machete, whap, off with the head of lettuce. Whap, off with the cow's head. Whap, off with the human head. Is there an ethical difference in those three actions?
We accept knowledge from God. He says you can have the plant form to eat, but first it's sacrificed to him.
Yeah, well, I just basically explained to you why your worldview I cannot accept. Because from your worldview, there's no difference between cutting a human head versus cutting a head of lettuce.
I never said that.
Yes, you did.
No.
You said your real significance is that you have a spirit, and that flower's real significance is that that flower has a spirit. Well, if you both have a spirit, then I have no justification in stepping on the flower, and I obviously have no justification in stepping on you.
It says, gives the sanction for what for us to eat and kill and to utilize in his service. For example, the human form is meant for a vegetarian diet. It also states that in Genesis 1:29, if you want to reference the book that you're probably big on.
All right.
But he offers a leaf of flower, fruit, or water with love and devotion. I'll accept that offering. That's one of his writings in a book that he wrote himself with his own hand.
If you read the Vedas and Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita clearly enough, you cannot mistake the fact that everything is part of God according to that worldview. If everything is part of God, then there's no ethical basis for distinguishing it between cutting a head of lettuce, cutting a cow's head, cutting a human head. It's all part of God.
Well, I'm headed that there is a discrepancy between where you're going and what is meaningful and why people choose to get up every day. And it might not have anything to do with the higher power. Maybe it does have something to do with procreation, and we just somehow distort it into being something else, like higher meaning. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, but let me just tell you about my experience. I've worked among prostitutes in inner city Boston and pimps. And I understand a man pulling out his wallet, paying a prostitute to have sex with her. But I have experienced something more in observing other men who really love this woman, and even if they can't have sex with her, they still want to care for her, provide for her.
Sure. It goes back to my chimp and the kitten story then.
Okay, good. Well, my point is, this innate ability to love is not simply a sex drive. This innate ability to love is a free decision
Sure.
to care for somebody else.
Much like that chimp who has no...
Well, I don't know about the chimp. Maybe the chimp can love, all right?
Then why do chimps get depressed and need to go on Prozac?
I don't have the faintest idea. I've never been able to psychoanalyze a chimp. I don't know. All I know is myself and other human beings who I can have intelligent conversations with. And I know that we human beings can choose to love or we can choose to hate. We don't have to do either. Yes, we have sex drive. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with a sex drive. But that's not all there is to love. There's the ability to genuinely care for another human being.
Right. And in the end, that caring promotes the procreation of your offspring because you have a higher chance, statistically, of moving your offspring into their next generation if you are a tandem. Maybe via our evolutionary process, love was the thing that bound us together to help our children procreate.
So you think social Darwinism drives us to care for handicapped people? You think survival of the fittest motivates us to give up some of our limited financial resources to care for people?
Then I go back to the chimp and the kitten.
And what about them?
That you think that chimp cares for that kitten because there's something in it for her?
I told you.
I know.
I do not know about the chimp. I've never had a meaningful conversation with a chimp. I honestly don't know. But I do know that we human beings can genuinely care for each other. And I do know that that value of love tells me there's more to reality than matter and energy. There's a free will. There's this innate ability that we human beings have to genuinely care. Maybe the chimp can, maybe the chimp can't. Right. I don't know about a chimp. I've never had a good conversation with a chimp.
Let's just, for the sake of argument, since that's what we're doing today, think that the chimp can care. Because you're doing a lot of, you're asking us to have faith. So I'm asking you to have faith right now. And saying, geez, chimps, some can sign, some can say, I love you. They have depression. So I'm saying, I'm wrestling with it.
Okay, but my point is rather simple. My point is, if there is no God, chimps don't love, people don't love. Because if there is no God, reality is matter and energy. That's all there is, matter and energy. Which means what you and I call love, be it loving a chimp with a kitten, or be it human love, is simply an instinct, a biological drive. And I'm telling you, sir, although I don't know about the chimp, I do know that for us human beings, there's more than just matter and energy. There's this innate ability to genuinely love, which tells me there's more to reality than simple matter and energy. There's got to be some type of God who gives us this innate ability to genuinely love.
Maybe that love emotion you're feeling is some sort of synapses firing in your brain that we haven't had the ability to explain yet.
Okay, fine. You're right. Maybe that's what it is. I can sit on the side of my bed tonight, and I can judge myself. I can know myself. I can critique myself. I can say, Cliff, when you responded to that person, good job. When you respond to that person, disrespectful, don't do that again. See, I have a free will, which means when I treated him the way I did, when I treated him the way I did, I didn't have to do it. I chose to do it. And I can change my behavior. I can choose to love instead of being hateful or disrespectful. In other words, there's more to me than just synapses firing. See, if what you say is correct, that it's all just synapses firing, then think about it. It's just synapses. Wow. Cliff, why'd you do that? Because the synapse fired.
But then you were going into a whole self-preservation mode. Because you know that in that particular instance, there'll be consequences. Not on a God level, but just on a social level, on a social Darwinism level.
Yeah, but if Darwinism speaks the truth, then I'm not free. I am biologically, chemically determined.
Jeez, I know. Maybe.
Not maybe, definitely.
Maybe.
If there is no God, if Darwinism tells the whole story, I don't have free will. I just do what I am chemically determined to do. I'm a machine.
you will follow the path of least resistance.
And my experience of life is we are more than complex biochemical machines. We have a free will. We have the ability to love or to choose not to love and to hate. Now, all I'm saying is, isn't that an accurate story of you? Am I not reading your mail? I mean, isn't that who you are? A man who can choose to love even your enemy, or you can hate your enemy and blow your enemy out of the water.
I think we're digressing. The original point I was trying to make was the idea that earlier you alluded to the fact that if you're truly an atheist, then your life is meaningless.
Right.
That you need some sort of higher meaning in your life to get out of bed every day, if you're really honest with yourself. True? Am I reading you wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay. And what I was trying to juxtapose was the idea that there are many things out there, in addition to humans, that might not necessarily have a higher meaning or need one to get out of bed in the morning.
You're right. And that's why I talked about Bertrand Russell's unyielding despair. Bertrand Russell did get out of the bed every morning, right?
Okay.
But his point was, despair is the only logical conclusion, but I'm not going to give in to it. And obviously Sartre and Nietzsche and Camus didn't either. But you see, what they had the courage to say was, it's meaningless, but in spite of that, I'm going to continue to keep going.
Right.
Too many atheists run around not facing the meaninglessness of it all. They instead attach great significance to their lives, great significance to love and to...
Okay.
And that's being intellectually inconsistent.
Okay. I got you.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this episode. Hit that subscribe button. We love for you to join the family. Also, want to invite you to our church in New Canaan, Connecticut. It's New Canaan High School, and it meets Sundays at 9:30 a.m.